title
not
to it.
here yet, is she?
What was
I
that?
asked her, Christy, you like treasure books?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Do I like treasure books? What do you mean treasure books?
Treasure books.
Yes,
Natasha,
I love
treasure
it.
books. Okay, hold
Love
on.
it.
Like, you got to show me an example.
Treasure book, Natasha. She's amazing.
So her last video, she made 30 of these. I'm on number 8.
Those are awesome.
It's like little
Just 5
pamphlet
little
books.
pages. So easy to make. And they're tied. They're not even sewn.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
cute.
Yeah. I've had a blast with them the last couple of days.
Right. I'm going to turn off my camera, and so that way you're pinned.
Okay.
There we go.
Let me know when to start.
You can start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Desiree. We're gonna dust paper today. I'm made by Marlee. You guys heard Marlee. Hopefully she won't decide to talk again. So we're gonna dye some paper. Now, normally when I dye paper, I use synthetic dyes. I use bath bomb dyes. But because that's not easily accessible to everybody else, we're gonna use tie-dye, coffee, and I boiled up some marigolds, and we're using some marigolds. So this is kind of what we're looking at making today. Now, we're not going to get as vibrant colors, but I'm hoping that it's going to be close. So I'm just going to start. I usually leave mine, I bath mine. Okay, you know what? Sorry. Let's just say one thing, disclaimer. I use my oven. I never leave my oven when it's on, when there's paper in it. I never go over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you have a 3-rack oven like I do not ever use stencils or placemats or anything like that on the bottom rack because they could melt. Also, I have a fire extinguisher less than 5 feet from me. Okay, saying that, we are going to take some marigold paper out and see how it came out. This has been in the bath since about 5, 6 o'clock this morning. So it's a little yellow. I'm hoping it's going to brighten up in the oven. And I'm going to put stencils on it so that we get a pretty pattern. Also, anybody, if you want to ask questions as we're going, by all means. I have no issues with being interrupted.
Have you ever done multiple pages and then put a stencil on top? Does that work that way or no?
No, it doesn't. Only the page at the top will have the pattern. I think it's because it's being exposed to the hot air. The space that gives you the pattern is the open space of the stencil. So whatever is being covered. So for this one, all of this out area is all going to be white. Also, the back is going to be lighter. So the one underneath, you probably won't get anything off it at all. And you always want your stencil on top of your paper. If you put the stencil underneath, that's not going to work either.
Also, what's
go ahead.
the purpose of the aluminum foil piece in between your paper and your pan?
Oh,
pan.
Can you see the pattern on my pan?
Yes.
The paper will take on that pattern.
Okay, so that's to prevent that from happening?
Yes. Now,
so if you want the pattern, then don't put aluminum.
Exactly. Don't put any aluminum foil down. Or you can do this. You can crinkle your aluminum foil And I won't put a stencil on this one. And hopefully it'll work.
I
Now, I
stepped
don't
away,
know if you can. Sorry, go ahead.
I stepped away for a second. Is that the marigold?
Yes.
Cool.
Marigold back.
That's coming out
How
pretty.
long does it stay in the oven?
5 to 10 minutes, just depending on how wet and whatever, or how dry I really want it. I'm just tapping it down in the valleys. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm stuck. Oh, there we go. Right here, it's a little darker. I don't know if you can see it or not. But that's because the pages were sitting on top of each other. So this actually got more dye on it than the rest, than the rest of the page. So sometimes that'll happen as well if you're putting multiple sheets in your bath at a time, because it just, you know, the other paper just gets in the way. I try to soak it and then wait a little minute before I put the next page down, but you know, sometimes it just doesn't happen because you're impatient and you just want to get it done, right?
Now, is it the
Okay.
same process for your doilies? Would you let them sit that long in the
No,
bath?
no, I can do a batch of doilies for you guys. As soon as I No, the doilies, I only leave them in for 30 seconds to a minute. This
Is it basically you gotta like kind of test out your paper and see how much it can handle of being soaked?
Well, the doilies I don't leave in as long because of the lace. Regular paper, like this paper's been in the dye since 6 o'clock this morning. I've left paper in the dye for 2 or 3 days. You just have to
Yeah.
be very careful with it, but typically it keeps its shape. It doesn't usually fall apart, but you have to be very delicate with it, especially picking it up on the corners because they tear very easily. But I've dyed so much that.
Yeah. Sonia's asking, my paper tends to tear if I soak it. I'm using 20 to 30 pound copy paper. Should I use heavier weight? I've also been just painting the dye on instead.
Yep, you can do that. I use 20-pound copy. So, and I typically don't tear it, but every once in a while I'll tear the corner off of it. You'll see it better when I get one of the other bins out. The walls are really high on this one, so it's hard to see when I'm pulling the paper out. I'm very, very, very delicate, and there's certain ways that I hold the paper, like just, I'll show you. It's hard to explain. But this is one of the doilies. It's got a soft yellow tinge. This is from yellow tie-dye, and this soaked for about a minute. So you can still see the white. Also, this is coated, so it's harder to get it to absorb the liquid. So for this to get as yellow as it did, I was actually quite pleased. And this is red. This soaked probably for a couple of minutes. And this came out really nice. And you can dye anything. Anything. The last journal I made, I dyed all my muslin, all my lace. The paper that I've dyed, book pages, index cards, doilies, regular paper. I'm sorry, one moment. If you're really worried about your paper tearing, use 32 pound. That's where I started, was with 32 pound paper. So maybe that's why it's a little easier for me. It won't tear quite as easily. You do have to soak it a little bit longer, just to get it to absorb. But
What
that might
what
help.
about what about envelopes that have the window on it? Will the window color or just the
No.
envelope part?
Yeah, just the envelope. The window won't color because well, you know what? No, that's a lie. The window might color, but I'm guessing if you wipe it off, it'll probably come off just because it's plastic. You know what? No, if you're going to use an oven, don't use windowed envelopes because I don't know how heat resistant that plastic is on a windowed envelope.
I would say
But
if you're gonna put it in the, I wouldn't put it in the oven. Is all, like,
yeah,
just put it
no.
out in the sun or just let it dry
If you're laying
naturally.
it out, you can always do it. Yeah.
You also gotta watch the. I've done a couple of them before. If the window might fall off because of the water, it's
Uh,
soaking in the water.
the glue.
Yeah,
Yeah. They
but
use
yeah,
water glue then.
some of them will die, but it's rare if you've got this kind of a envelope. I've noticed that every once in a while, it's almost like it feels almost like a parchment paper type of window, even though it's like like it's translucent, almost completely like it's clear.
Right.
But sometimes it's like a papery feeling to it, and sometimes um yeah, they can actually like soak and tear the window itself, but it's rare you see those type of envelopes anymore. But I would say
Yeah.
just let them dry naturally. All you can do is try. Worst case scenario, you have to re-glue in the window after.
Or put in a new window. Get some acetate. Now,
Do you
what
add
you're also,
anything?
sorry,
Do you
go
add
ahead.
anything to the? Do you add anything to the water besides the dye?
I don't know, but you can. I've been told that you can add baking soda. For certain dyes, it'll actually change the pH and can change the color of the dye. I think cabbage. I think it happens with cabbage. It'll actually change the color because the pH changes. But other than that, I haven't heard of any other additives other than like the dyes themselves. You can use almost anything. You can use flowers, obviously. That was new to me. I use a synthetic FD&C dye. You can use soap dyes, liquid soap dyes. I was hoping Christy was going to be here because I was going to ask her how hers made out because she used some liquid soap dyes. And these are just tiny little bottles. I'm not sure how much she put in.
Yeah, no, she does her weekly noon Twitch live at
Oh,
noon
that's
on
right.
Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, she says she's gonna try to see if she can make it in here after, but
Yeah,
it might be a
that's
while.
okay. Food coloring, tie dye, any kind of fabric dye, RIT dye. A friend of mine used RIT, and she put in half the bottle, which definitely was not needed. And she dyed vellum, and it came out amazing. Oh, what else could you use as a dye?
Let me see. I've used my readers for my distress inks, and
Yep.
I've used unicorn spit, which is it's a gel stain for wood, but you can use it for all kinds of things. You can use it for watercoloring. You could use it for people use it to dye clothes, dye their hair, just to paint war furniture. It's called unicorn spit.
Avocados,
Yeah.
avocado skin and the seeds.
Onions, cabbage.
How do you make your dye? Do you just go by what it says on the box, or do you have a certain way to tell if it's dark enough, or
For what?
like if you're making the color that you have now, how do you know, how much?
Experiment. That's the only way I can say it, by experiment. What I do is, these are the Michaels 12 by 12 paper containers. We all store our paper in them. I like these because they're hard plastic and they're not going to leak. I have had these spring a leak. So be very careful if you're leaving your dye out overnight in one of those pans. The tie-dye I use is Dollar Tree tie-dye. There's 2 different kinds up here in Canada. I don't know about you guys, but there's the Crafter Square tie-dye. It comes in 6 different colors. And then there's this BU tie-dye, and it comes in 6 different colors. I use 2 of these bottles to 6 cups of water. And through experimenting, that's how I found I get a nice color. This is the lined paper. You can see the orange is pretty nice. It turned gray because the ink ran, but the orange came out quite nice. So we'll find out when I pull this orange out. This was the marigold. So it actually came out quite nice. But again, the ink ran a little bit. And that was some coffee that I did. But that's basically it. It's just experimenting. If you want to do coffee, I use instant. I use a tablespoon per cup or per 8 ounces instead of a teaspoon that you would normally make when you drink it. Tea, just make it as strong as you want. And then you'll get different colors in your teas as well. So this is what we got from the marigold. I'm not sure. Can you guys see it, or is it too bright?
I can see
Too
it.
bright?
Is it yellowy?
It is.
Yeah. I know they said that if you soak it a really long time, some people have done it for a few hours, that it comes out more orange, but it also depends on the marigolds you have too.
Yeah, these are predominantly, well, not this one, the marigold bath, is mostly yellow. So that's probably why I got more of a yellow color. But in person, this is a beautiful piece of paper. I can see the pattern clearly. It's quite, there you can see it a little bit, but it's actually quite nice. But the orange should come out better so that you can actually see it.
Yeah. Some good flowers are like some roses, hibiscus, the marigolds. I use butterfly pea. It's called butterfly pea because I also use it for my teas. That one's a pretty blue. And if you change the pH, it'll turn to purple instead. I'm trying to think of what other flowers I've used. I've used different spices. I grind down the spice as much as possible to get it as powdery as possible, and then just boil it for a while. And then that will give you different colors. So basically, if you have something that will change color or create water, a color, like make water into a color, use it.
Yeah. If you can change the color of your water, you can change the color of your paper.
Yeah.
Or anything else.
Get that alchemy brain out and start dyeing everything. You're going to end up wanting to dye like everything and anything you can get your hands on.
Oh, I have. You see the load of paper? Oh, you can't even see it. Never mind. There's a load of paper on my countertop right now because I go manic dyeing.
Sorry I was late. How long do you diet for?
It depends on how concentrated your dye is and how long you want it. But if you just want to do it quick and you're using a strong coffee, you could probably put it in for a couple of minutes, pull it out, and throw it in the oven, and you'll probably get something. I leave mine for a while. I leave mine for a minimum of an hour, but sometimes overnight. Sometimes I'm just look at it and go, you know what? I really don't feel like doing this, so I just leave it and get it out in the morning. But I'd say an hour or two on average.
Basically, the deeper the color, if you've ever dyed like Easter eggs, you know, like the
Yes.
more you keep putting it in, the longer you keep it in, the brighter the
Easter
color's
dye.
going to be. If
Thank
you
You can
just
use
dip it
Easter egg
for a
dye.
second, you're not going to get it, you know, as bright as you want it or as deep as you want it.
Exactly.
And what's the
So
thickness
hopefully
on the
these orange
paper?
ones come out better than the yellow. But again, the yellow is very pretty. You know what I'll do when we're done is I'll take some pictures of the yellow and I'll post them in the chat here so that you guys can actually see what they look like. So I'm being very careful. I'm pushing around the paper so that I can just get my thumb underneath the edge. Very carefully pick it up and just like gentle soft hands. I'm barely holding on to the paper. So I think that's why I don't get any issues with tearing. Now, mind you, though, the first page I pulled out of this did tear a bit on me.
What's the thickness of the paper?
Pardon me?
What's the thickness of the paper?
I'm using just regular photocopy paper, 20 pound. This was the one that didn't get a stencil. And you can see the shape of it. It's a lot crinklier. It's a lot different. It's wavy and stuff. But the pattern didn't come up on it that I wanted to because the page is too light. So we'll try that again with the copy. You can use pretty much any thickness of paper you want, but the thicker the paper, the longer you need to dye it, and the harder it is to bend afterwards. I find it's almost like after you dye it, it's almost stronger. And you worry about cracking. Ooh, I echoed there.
Do you ever like if it's not dark enough, do you ever redo it?
Yeah, yeah, just throw it right back in the bath and dye it longer, or make your bath darker and put it right back in the dye.
After it dried, you can do that again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Cool.
I've
If you guys want to,
actually,
I was going to say, if you guys want to try too, is get colored copy paper and then you can add a second color to it too.
yeah, this here, this is colored coffee dyed. And you can see the dark, that's the coffee. And that's the
cool.
pattern that comes out from the aluminum foil that I was trying to show you guys.
That's cool. So you did coffee and then you put color on it?
No, it's colored paper. I bought the paper already colored and I coffee dyed it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Some of the pages, depending on the quality of the paper, some of them the color ran, some of them they didn't. This one didn't. I had an orange one that turned, no, it was a yellow one that turned orange. The color ran on it. And then I did this. It didn't turn out quite the way I wanted it to, but I put this half in the blue bath. So it was actually blue all the way up to here. And then I put the other half in the purple and it creeped up on me, but that's what happened from going half and half. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now we got to kill another 10 minutes.
So has anybody experimented today yet?
I did. I did some coffee this morning. Desiree told me yesterday we were talking, and she said she does a tablespoon for every cup. So I did that with instant coffee. And I don't know, that's why I was asking. I don't know if I left them in long enough. They definitely looked like they changed colors. So I have it in the sun right now, drying, so I haven't gone out there or anything.
I'm thinking the sun will probably give it the same effect that my oven does.
Hmm.
So it should make it darker.
I hope so. It's my first, well, I did try before a long time ago, and I tried using just my coffee that I drink out of because I had extra, and that didn't work very good at all.
Yeah.
You have to, there's two factors you got to look at. How long you're boiling or brewing the dye itself. Because if you're using coffee, flowers, spices, anything like that, the longer you brew, the more color you're going to get out of that element that you're using to get your dye out of. If you heat your dye, that sometimes helps to get it to soak in a little bit more.
Yes.
You just got to be careful because, it's hot. So like if I were to put in like flowers, the longer I steep them, my flowers are going to start losing their color. So the more your flower loses color, the more of the pigment from the actual flower is in your water. And then after that, it's how long you're going to soak it. It's just like if you were dyeing your hair, dyeing clothes, dyeing anything.
Yep.
If you've ever worked with paints or anything else, if you dip your finger in something real quick, your finger's not going to be dyed. But if you've been using it all day, your fingers are going to be covered in ink or dye or whatever, right? So like how
My
you
fingers have coffee all over them right now.
Yeah. So it's like that. So like if you brew tea, if you brew tea longer, you're going to get a stronger taste of your tea. It's the same thing. You're going to get a stronger amount of dye out of it. Your coffee, if you're drinking, coffee that is not a very strong coffee, it's not a strong brew. If it's a light coffee of any kind or a medium roast or a light roast, you're not going to get a good color. If you get a dark roast and you brew it for a really long time and just let it sit in that water, then finally use the coffee to dye your paper, you're going to get a stronger dye out of it. You're always going to get lighter because you're putting it on something white. So it's almost adding white to whatever dye you're using. So it's going to lighten the dye that you're using. So like I can almost tell like right now, if I'm looking at the dye that she has on there, I already know she's going to get a very light color out of that, because even though it's a bright color in the bath, once you take it out and put it on white, it's going to lighten it up probably like 5-10 times lighter than what you're putting it into.
Just like adding white paint to something.
Yeah, so you gotta like, the longer you leave it, the longer it's gonna soak in. The longer you brew, the longer it's gonna soak in. With the heat, the longer it'll help to like soften up the fibers of the paper and soak it in. The only thing is that if you end up putting your paper in a hot bath, you're also running the risk of your paper falling apart faster. So you can't leave it in as long. Yeah.
It'll definitely curl when you put it in the bath. The ends will curl. So you got to put it in slowly and tap it down as you're putting it in.
Yeah. And you just be careful. Like I prefer just to brew it longer, let it cool off, and let them sit in there longer. Because
Yep.
if I put it in hot, there's a chance that your paper might just fall apart into little particles. And then you're just going to make new paper then. But what I do is if my paper starts falling apart way too much, I put that aside and then I just make paper out of it.
Mm.
Technique you can do, like making your own paper after if it turns to mush, you can do
You can
that.
dye your own handmade paper.
Yeah, I do that. I love doing that. I love making handmade paper, and it doesn't. I like the thick, squishy kind.
I don't do it this way though. What I did was I took colored tissue paper
Yeah.
and just threw it in the blender with my white paper, and
Yeah.
that
Okay,
colored
we
my
need a
paper.
class. We need a class how to make paper. What the heck?
Making your own paper is like really fun.
No,
Really
no.
simple.
I
And
have
don't think
never
I'm gonna
seen
do
that.
ever again.
I've always done it where I dye the mush and then
Yeah.
put the paper. I don't dye it after.
I didn't
Yeah,
even know that
no,
was a thing. What?
I just
My mind is blown right now. Come on, you can't bring that up and then not show us how.
Yeah, that's not a you can just make it like that fast kind of thing. That one takes some prep.
yeah. It took me a long time to clean up. Like I had a table outside. My rags are no longer white. It makes a big stinking mess, but it is
And
fun.
it's not even just that. It's like you gotta you need a lot of parts to do it.
Yeah. Two baths, a blender, a
And you
big
need a
workspace.
dedicated blender. So I would say if you want to start making paper, find yourself a used blender or a blender you no longer want for food, because you do not want to put your food in there after.
Yep. Anything you dye or use for your crafts that's from your kitchen, you do not want to use it for food afterwards.
What about using like ink to dye?
Yeah, you could probably do that.
Yeah.
I've seen people
it's messy.
take the reinkers and put a couple drops of the reinkers in a little mister and put a stencil down and mist the paper.
Yeah. I use drops, like a whole bunch of drops of this in my water to dye my paper.
That's exactly what they used.
Yeah. I use that to do my black paper. I used it for, where's my black paper?
Because I have some of those like those sprays, that color spray. So Desiree, you're saying to put the stencil on it and then mist it over.
Just like that.
Oh dang! I gotta try that. I'm so excited.
Yep. There we go. Oh, it's still a little wet.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, so that's the pattern we got off of that one.
Wow.
But they're not quite ready to come out yet. And then that one, like dandelions.
Oh my gosh. Is that the orange?
There, that's better.
Or is that marigold?
Oh yeah,
that's nice. Oh, this is the orange tie-dye.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is orange tie-dye.
Can you show us your homemade paper?
Yeah. Just give me a minute. Let me get this orange out.
Okay, no problem.
My paper for you.
This paper right here was dyed with black soot distress reinker. So all I did was throw that into a bath. And these are all like different reinkers and things like that on different papers like this. So this was also like spraying it or adding extra mica powders to it, like this. Some of these are reinkers. Like this is the black reinker. You get all kinds of colors. You can add mica powder to your, this was adding like some mica powders to it. And it got me these like copper effects on like a pink paper, sort of. You can add all kinds of stuff to the bath and experiment. Don't use glitter. Mica powder, yes. Glitter does nothing. It's just going to wash off.
Yeah, and it'll plug your mister.
Yeah.
So when you say mica powder, are you talking about those things that I were using the other day, that those shakers, and then you put water on it and the color comes out?
No,
Okay.
those you can use just for like dyeing if you want to. You can put a few like pats of this. This would be cool. You know what you should experiment is if you have like your tea dye or whatever like that, right? Like, or your bath water for it, you could put a couple of these, and wherever it settles, it'll make like little spurts of color in between it. But then eventually
wow.
also it's going to change the color of your ink. I mean, of your dye bath. I had a paper making kit and gave it away when I moved. Kind of regret it now. Yeah. And it's easy. I mean, you don't need a kit for making paper. All you need is a decal, which is just a screen in a frame. And you get 2 frames. One of them you attach a screen to, and the other one just kind of sits on top just to kind of help keep the paper shape. If you don't care about the paper shape, just a frame with a screen, or even just a screen. If you want like raw edges, if you want your edges nice and squared off, then you use a frame. And then you just need paper chopped up in a blender. That's pretty much all you need to make paper. Some paper towels, or some towels just to pat out the water. And when you first make it, yours is going to be thick and chunky, and it's going to look funky. It's not going to look like a smooth piece of paper. So don't be ready for that.
Yeah. It'll take you a minute before you can figure out how to get it so that it's nice and thin, or
Yeah,
thin enough.
you gotta figure out how much.
When you have a fresh bath. When you've got a fresh bath, there's so much pulp in it, and you dip and you just pick up so much that your paper just ends up so thick. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, but I loved it. Like the first time I made it, mines were like super thick. I made them when I was really younger. So I ended up with like small little pieces, and they were thick, like super thick, like a card. It was fun. That one came out pretty. It came out super pretty.
Okay, you know what we're going to try on this one? I went outside and pulled some plants out of my garden. So this is the hosta leaf. And let's see what happens when we bake it. And then these, I'm quite pleased with this orange.
Those are awesome.
It came out beautifully. It's not as vibrant as the bath bomb dyes, but you do get a nice color out of it. And
those are beautiful.
You can always add another bottle of tie dye or leave it in the bath longer, right? Okay, what else we got?
Yeah, you see how the water's creeping up on the bottom left-hand side? That'll give you that nice settlement of color. I love when it does that.
Yeah, when you get the peaks and valleys, your peaks will get dark, but your valleys can also get dark depending on how much sits and soaks in that area.
Is this coffee?
Yes, this is coffee. These are Rose of Sharon leaves.
Wow, I didn't know you could do this. I'm having so much fun.
This is the first time I tried this. So we're going to learn together. That one. I love that hydrangea. It's so pretty.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Beautiful.
Okay, and what else we got? These are hydrangea leaves. And this is a big old maple leaf. I don't know how well this will work, but I'm thinking we're going to get a negative impression With the stencil, everything that's not covered gets darker. So because I'm putting big leaves on it, I'm expecting the rest of the paper to be dark and everything underneath the leaves to be light. And I'm hoping we get a little bit of the lines from the veins, but I'm not sure if that's going to work or not.
Basically, whatever you put on it kind of drinks up the liquid and it pulls it away from the paper. So whatever's actually in contact with the paper pulls away the liquid,
Yeah.
and the other part still has the liquid on it. So we used to call it a drink method because your stencil or stamp or whatever else you put on top of it drinks up the water wherever it's sitting.
Okay, I'm going to crinkle up the paper again. We're going to try the pink.
You're getting, Desiree, the pixel came in, if you want to.
It's pixelated? Okay, give me 1 sec.
Yeah.
From the tray.
Yeah.
Good now.
My dog is going to be so fat at the end of this. She keeps getting biscuits. So this is some of my dyed paper, or my handmade paper. This one was supposed to be blue, but ended up a little purple because there was still some pink left in it. But this one's fairly thin, so I can tell that this was towards the end of my batch. And then you can make little small ones. You can get the screens in all kinds of different sizes. Like this is A5. You can get 8.5 by 11. I know there's a bigger size, like 9 by 12 or something.
You can also just make one.
Yeah, or you can just make one. This is what you'll get if you just take any color paper and throw it in a blender. It'll just turn gray. This one's a little thicker. You can tell by the way it won't bend.
Nice.
This one was cooked in the oven. I can tell by the light at the back and the dark at the front. At the end, it started to rain on me, so I had to bring all my paper in, and I just said screw it and threw it in the oven.
That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to do some oilies. That's right. Actually, I'm going to do some orange ones. But we're going to wait. We're just going to put that in as we go.
If you don't use all your dye and say you've finished making it for now, can you keep it or do you just make new stuff?
You can keep it, but it'll get sludgy because of the paper. Also, if you leave it too long, it'll mold because of the bacteria in the water. I've kept it in my fridge. The coffee molded on me. The bath bomb dyes got really, really sludgy. And I think it's just the stuff coming off of the paper and it's just sitting so long at the bottom of the thing. So now when I dye until I can barely get one more piece of paper in the bath. So I use up as much of it as I possibly can, and then I just pitch it. I dump it down the sink.
That's what I did with my coffee. It just kept soaking it up, and I just did it until I couldn't get any more on it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I do.
Okay.
Like if you're going to do it the next day, then yeah. But if you're thinking like you're going to hold it for like a week or whenever, no.
Yeah, no.
It'll get gross.
Trying to think if there's anything else I can show you. Let's read some book pages.
So the ink on the book pages doesn't bleed?
No.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And even the images came out really nice. There's one with a big image on it. Here's one. You can still see the images, even though it's been colored blue, right? This was a gray and white book, so the images weren't in color anyways. And then this is a valley
That's
here.
cool. That's very cool.
Now you have to be careful though when you're using when you're doing lined paper, just because I printed off lined paper and dyed it right away, and it's ran on me. So this paper, I actually printed it and let it sit for a week, and it still ran. So it's definitely the quality of the ink that I'm using. I'm sure that some of the stuff that Monique uses is probably a lot better than what I'm using.
It just depends on what you're using altogether, because some things, if you're using a dye that is very water soluble, so if I'm using like Distress ink to dye it,
Yeah.
it's water soluble. So yeah, every time it gets wet, it's going to move a little. It's not going to completely go away, but then with anything else, that if you soak it long enough, water will come out of it, and or color will run from it. But it just depends on how much you use, what you're using. A lot of it, like you said, a lot of it is just trial and error. There's some things like, yeah, we can tell you like this does this, but the list is going to be thousands of things long.
Oh,
So it's hard to make like a list to tell you what does what. But Distress inks, they're made to react with water. They're going to react with water on your paper again, because it's just like spraying it. Even if you're dyeing it with it, it's going to go through the fibers and dye it, and the dye will stay. But the more you add water, like if you decide to use that paper later on to ink it or add paint to it, you might get a little tiny bit of runoff, but not a ton. It's already going to be
unless you Mod Podge it, and unless you Mod Podge over it, and then it'll stay.
Yeah, but your Mod Podge is going to colors. So as you're putting the Mod Podge on, something like Distress ink,
unless you have the spray kind.
Yeah, the spray will do it.
Spray varnishes.
But there's nothing really, I don't think there's any reason that you would really have to, not in a junk journal, unless you're going to be re-wetting it anyway. So unless you're going to be spraying it and stuff, but then that's what could also give you the really cool look. Because if you're going to do mixed media in it, that's just going to give you it's another cool thing to do. So I really wouldn't seal mine. I don't really seal any papers that I dye. There's really no need to seal it.
Unless you do this. I did a collage over fabric and put it on the cover. That's the only reason I sealed it. And I got lucky. I used Maker's Magic, and I don't think it's water-based, so none of my color ran.
You put that on top of like regular material?
Yeah, just plain old fabric. Put like wax paper or something underneath it, because when you glue down your pieces, the glue underneath this is going to seep through your fabric. So you don't want to do it just over your workspace. You want to put some wax paper or something down.
Yeah.
Okay, that's still drying.
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't like hold it ahead of time if you're not sure what you're going to use it for yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that specifically for that journal.
I watched a video.
That was my challenge journal. That was the one I made for the last challenge.
I'm sorry. I watched a video today where they were using alcohol inks and moving it with alcohol, and it was really cool.
Yep.
Yeah. That you need special paper for, though. Like, so alcohol inks on top of regular paper, the minute you put it down, it's just going to seep right through because it's alcohol. So think of like how fast alcohol evaporates. If you're putting it on regular plain old paper, it's just going to soak right through the paper, and it's going to dry, and it's not going to move. That's why they're using special coated paper,
Mhm.
and that's different. So like if you're gonna, I wouldn't
Now,
use
did they
alcohol
use
ink.
there's some sort of stuff, alcohol ink mixer or something. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
I actually made some of it. That's supposed to help you move the alcohol and stop it from seeping in, but I can't remember what it's called. Tim Holtz makes it.
She was using
Yeah.
1% alcohol, and she was using it on regular paper. And she was drying it with her dryer.
If she dries it with a dryer, who were you watching?
Soonja or something. It was a name I couldn't pronounce.
She might have been using Yupo paper. Yeah. Because it moves a little, but it soaks in so fast, you can't move it that long. Even like with it's what's it called? Blending solution.
Blending solution. Thank you.
She was doing it in the bottom of a paper plate.
Oh, on a paper plate, yeah, because paper plates have a little bit of a coating. All paper plates have a little, even like regular paper plates have like a little bit of a wax coating. That's what helps to keep them from like falling apart while you eat on them. Even the really bad ones, they have a little bit of like a wax coating to them. So it will move for a little bit, but you're not going to get that big movement. Watch if you want to learn like a lot more about the alcohol ink, watch Tiffany Solario. I'll put it I'll put her name in there.
Okay.
In the chat. Look up her. She has tons of alcohol ink lessons and everything that she does, like on YouTube and all that. She works with Ranger and all of them for alcohol inks and all the different people. But yeah, because it's basically it's alcohol, so it can dry fast. So like it moves more on something that's slicker. I wouldn't use it for dyeing because it will go into like your water, but it doesn't, like it almost settles too quickly. It's really weird. You could play with it, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Like it settles and like gets stuck, and you'll waste your alcohol inks really fast.
Yeah. She was in water.
Yeah. But for doing all kinds of other color techniques, it's really fun. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. I used to use like photo paper. It works really nice on certain vellums. There's all kinds of different things like that.
Yeah, vellum comes out nice dyeing it this way. I'll show you.
Yeah, I would watch yeah.
That's dyed vellum.
That's what the soap ink, right?
No. This.
No? Oh, cool.
Well, it is and it isn't. This is tie-dye.
Wow.
The rest of it is soap inks. But yeah, the red is definitely tie-dye because I cannot get this red with my my soap dyes. Okay. Coming along. It's not quite ready yet. Looking kind of cool though. And then I put one of the doilies in. Actually, I can throw another one in. Now, these doilies are a little stronger than your regular paper doilies. Like, these are paper doilies, obviously, but they're coated. So the coating makes them a little stronger. But I've dyed with regular doilies, like Dollar Tree doilies, the big pack that you get like 4 of each size or whatever it is. I've dyed them all, and they all come out very nice. You just have to be very, very delicate with them and don't leave them in your bath for too long or they will fall apart.
So have you pulled any out and then put salt on it? Does it do anything?
No, I've never done that, but we can try it. Just plain old salt.
Yeah. If you have the Rocky salt, if you have more coarse salt, you get even more results. But you put it on after you take it out of the bath. Yep.
Well, let's try it. Oh, I was gonna do some mica spray for you guys, but I'm sorry, Monique, I cannot find my micas.
No problem.
But I can show you.
Yeah, if you put mica in the bath with it too, it goes all over the place and makes your paper sparkly. It's really fun.
Yeah,
You can
see,
spray
I
it
don't
later.
put it in my bath. I spray it on my paper, and I'm just seeing if you can see any of the shimmer.
Yeah, I saw it sparkle for a second there.
Yeah, it gives you a very pretty shimmer. And you can spray it. I use rubbing alcohol and mica because the rubbing alcohol dissolves so quickly that the mica just sits on top. You put it in the oven and it actually like bakes right into the paper.
Yeah.
I've got, I don't know, sales receipts, index cards, any book that I can get my hands on. I tried dyeing magazine pages once, but it just didn't work very well because, you know, the gloss. The older the book, the better. You want something like you can feel the paper. It almost feels porous compared to what our copy paper feels like now. Go. I'm sorry about my dog. We're developing a very bad habit here today.
Don't be sorry. She's a dog. You can't help it.
Still, it's just I'm giving her biscuits to shut her up.
Now you're going to be really in big trouble.
Yes, exactly. This is what the effect you get off of the crinkled aluminum foil.
Ooh.
The peaks are darker, the valleys are lighter, and your paper is all like crinkly. I love crinkly paper. Crinkly, crunchy. I love it. I think
Me
it's
too.
fantastic.
I love crinkles.
But some people want it as flat as humanly possible. So I do press most of my paper. Oh, also, try, if you're using aluminum foil, try to use the dull side up. Your paper will stick to the glossy side. I'm just putting down some new aluminum foil because I'm pulling out orange again. I just want to get these doilies out. Somehow my hair got in there. You know, be very careful too pulling your paper out of the oven. We don't want anybody to be burnt. So this is what we got with the maple leaf and the hydrangea. So that's kind of neat.
Very cool. You were right. It kind of made like a negative.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, I'll put salt on the next one. These came out amazing.
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's the
Very.
goal right there. Also, it's almost embossed where the paper was exposed to the heat. It actually, it's almost like it curled the paper a little bit and it embosses it. So you actually have like a pattern on the paper as well, which is really cool.
Very cool.
Okay, so we'll try some salt on this one, and then I'll pull one out of the coffee and try some salt on them. And how much? Just shake it on?
Not a lot.
No, it's just like a little bit. It's supposed to be kind of like if you're adding like a splash of sparkle.
Do I still put it in the oven?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, let's try it.
Okay, I just did a spritz of ink and stuff on my paper. Well, what you said, it looks really pretty cool, actually.
Good. Show us. Can you show us?
Yep. I was just going to ask you if you wanted me to show you guys. Okay, let me go on camera.
And I'm sorry, I ran really, really long here.
You're fine. There's no time limit.
Okay. Sorry, I just noticed it was 4:15 for me, and I just went, "Oh my goodness!" I thought it was going to be a half an hour.
Now, if you need to go, then yeah. But
no,
if you're
I'm not
fine
going
to
anywhere.
stay,
So you guys want to hang out? I'll hang out. I got no issues with that.
he's never
Here you
had
go.
time.
Oh, can't see your screen.
You're not on.
You have to leave and come back.
Yeah, your camera's not showing on.
Yeah.
Weird. I can see
happens all
myself.
the time. Just leave the chat and come back.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on.
Yeah. That hosta looks pretty cool.
That came out
Can
really
you see
nice.
me?
Yeah.
No.
Weird.
Sometimes it takes a second for the camera to like appear, but you might have to completely go out of the chat and then come back in, or close your Telegram and come back in.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I tore the corner off that one.
Now?
You're pressing like share, right?
I'm just putting the stencil on it.
But
Oh, no, I
do
mean
you
the
have your
television.
camera on?
Yeah, it shows it's on. It's green.
So, but
Are you seeing your image?
are you seeing yourself on the screen?
Yep.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I can see myself. Not that I want to, but I can see myself.
Yeah, I don't see you, and I don't have Desiree pinned.
Shush,
I don't see
no
you
bark.
either.
No bark. Okay, let me go back out again.
So I'm sorry, what's the salt supposed to do?
That's why. It's because Cheryl, you're not going out.
I noticed.
Let me kick you out, and then let's try it that way.
Yeah, kick me out. It takes me forever to figure it out.
I don't want to move from it. Make sure you're hitting the hang up button. That's what you're not doing.
Hold on. The phone. Got it.
Yeah. But
Leave.
don't kick everybody out. Make sure you uncheck the thing that says to end for all.
No, you're the only one that gets that, Monique.
No, she's a moderator.
Okay, never mind.
There, now she's out.
Here, this one picked up the pattern of the pan.
Ooh, that one came out good.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
But now you just need to turn on your mic.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Good grief. Yep. Technology is not my thing, can you tell? I just put some down just to try it. So
That's
it turned
awesome.
out actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I might have to trim my stencils a little bit more so it doesn't have all the white spots, but
You know what? It's okay having the negative spots. It's really not a problem. It's just part of
true.
your palette.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn my camera off now.
So Desiree, the salt should put like little white spots on there.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know what we can try? Glad I don't have too much stuff in these bags because it'd be a pain in my butt to move them around. Oh, crap. I was going to put some coffee, some instant coffee on it, but well, okay. I have instant espresso. It's like a powder. It's not the granules. I'm all out of that. I used it all up doing the base. Let's just see what that does. Because it just dissolves instantly. But we'll see what it does. And then we'll try another one with salt. Again. If I can get it out of the... See, Carol, this is the problem with the flat bottom. If I had the divots in the bottom of a roasting pan, I could just push it and the side of the paper would come up. And then you could grab the corner. Okay. So the orange doilies turned out really pretty. And that was what, a minute or two?
Wow.
Yeah. They don't need much because they're so thin. If you want to separate them all, like some people will put a whole pack in, like with your doilies, when you pull them out of a pack, there's usually, 4 or 6 of them all stuck together and you got to peel them all apart. Some people will throw that whole thing in the bath and peel it apart as they pull it out of the bath and just go with it. I actually peel them apart completely and do things the hard way.
But you get a better result, probably.
Well, it's just a different result. They would get more white blotches because there's certain areas of the doily that's not going to get dye on it. Oh, my oven keeps shutting off. My belly ends up resting on the stupid display and it shuts my oven off all the time.
Oh, good. I'm not the only one then.
Oh, God, no.
What do you have your oven on?
200. Now,
Okay.
I use convection because convection is basically just like a dehydrator. You've got heat and a fan. I find the convection works a little faster than just your regular bake, but I do not recommend going over 200. And I don't recommend ever leaving your oven while you've got paper in it. Like, odds are nothing's going to happen because you're not putting your paper right on the element or right on the flame. But just better to be safe than sorry. I don't leave my oven. Plus, I have a fire extinguisher behind me. And I keep the temperature low. And you can still put your stencils in at 200 degrees. They will not melt as long as you don't have it on the bottom third rack. Like, you get that sliding roasting rack at the very bottom of some ovens. I would not put a stencil on that one. Because I've melted a placemat before. So there's that.
It's good to know what not to do.
Yeah. Learn from
Because
my
I'll
mistakes.
do it. I'll be the one to try and do it.
Burnt rubber.
Have you ever tried it in a toaster oven?
No.
Like, I
What
didn't think
about
about
air
that.
fryer?
Um,
My air fryer has different elements on it. You can do
yeah.
everything.
If your air fryer has
Dehydrate. Yep.
dehydrate would definitely work on an air fryer.
And would you put it at 200?
Sure. I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Try
sorry.
it. I'll try it out.
Just don't walk away from it, because in a toaster oven, the elements are exposed.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I would worry about, is if any kind of breeze got in and the paper moved and hit the element, your paper will catch on fire.
Yeah, that's the only thing with the dehydrator, because it does blow. It's a good point.
But you don't get any, well, in a regular dehydrator, you don't have any open elements though. So that's not a problem to use. But on a toaster oven air fryer, I just don't know, because I've never used one. I don't even think I've ever really seen one. I'm just guessing what it looks like because of an old toaster oven that I used to have.
Yeah. I would say with anything, even just using it in the oven, make sure you're not far, just in case.
Yeah.
And you said you keep a fire extinguisher near, just in case, right?
There it is.
Yeah.
I just keep it sitting on the floor behind me. Now I know how to use it. I was in fire safety for 22 years, so I put out fires before, so I'm good. I won't panic. But if you panic, the only thing you need to remember is do not open your oven.
Well, how do you spray it out then if you don't open it?
Well, if you're panicking and you don't have a fire extinguisher, do not open your oven. Your oven is an encased vessel. The paper will burn itself out. It's going to stink to high heaven, but it will burn itself out. If you open that oven, you're adding oxygen to your fire, and depending on how big the fire is, it can get bigger. So just, if something happens in your oven, you just don't know what to do, just leave it. Turn it off and wait for the paper to go out on its own. But I don't want to scare you, because I've never, ever, ever heard of that happening. So there's that.
Yeah. Like in an oven, it's bigger. You don't have to worry about it too much. It's like anything else. If you leave the cookies in there too long, they're going to burn. If you leave your paper in there, it's going to burn.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you have a piece of dough
the longer
writing on top of something,
the darker your edges get, right? So everything's got its ignition point. So you just got to be careful.
So with caution on everything. Anytime you're using any kind of heat, fire, element, caution.
Yeah.
We're all adults. Basically, you should know better. Don't stick your hand on it. It's hot. If it's got fire, don't touch it.
We should know better. I burned the hell out of my mouth a week ago. It got blisters on it, and it still isn't healed. So we don't all know better. Just saying.
So
my boyfriend's like, why would you even do that? I'm just like, I don't know. It's horrible. No bark.
Okay. Do you see my screen? My screen share?
Yeah.
We can see food.
Okay, that's actually the marigolds. I did some pictures to you guys so you can see how I did it. So this picture is the heads on the left, the petals in the center, and then the green piece that sits on the bottom of the petal, like that holds it in. I tore that off and just threw the petals in the pot. So there's your petals, there's your pot, there's the leftovers.
Oh, wow. And so you just boil those and they turn color?
Yeah. The water was already turning color before it even started to boil.
Wow.
So I did it in stages. I put this much in and then I added more and then I added more because I just wanted it darker and darker and darker. And with the experimenting, I just went to town. In
Nice.
all, the entire bath probably boiled for about an hour and a half. And I put in a load. You can see that's just a little bit. That's the other half. I put in a load of flowers. This pot was half full. And that's one of those big pots that you get with your regular pot set. And then I strained it. Okay. There we go. I just strained it and then poured it in the bin, and you saw what the dye looks like.
Very cool. Do you guys see this?
Oh, wow. Carol, that's beautiful.
So you don't think it looks weird with the white around it?
No, I don't. Because
Okay.
do you think this looks weird with the white around it?
No, but it's yours. I think
There
it's
you
beautiful.
go.
That's
No,
the
it's the same
problem.
thing.
When I do something, I feel like it looks stupid. But when other people do something, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
You could always, if you wanted to, you could dump it back in a dye and dye. It'll dye the white area a little bit
Yeah.
with a different color, with a lighter color.
Yeah, I'm using these sprays,
Yeah, the dilutions.
the shimmer spray. Yeah, the divulsion or something.
Yeah, dilution.
Illusion. Yeah, you're right. And then the yellow one or orangish one, I use the Distress Oxide.
You could always go in with a lighter color and fill in the yellow if the white, if you don't like it.
Oh, that's a good idea. I'll try it.
On the tie-dye, the salt did something to the water or to the paper. It almost looks like the paper has eczema. It's like dry and scaly. I'm serious. It's kind of funny. I don't think you're gonna be able to see it though. No. So that's what it did to the tie-dye. Let's see. Oh, here we go. There we go. So that's the effect that the salt gave. And it still did that scaly skin kind of stuff. But
You can wipe it.
I love
You're gonna
this.
want to, yeah, you're gonna want to wipe it off. Like get
I
it,
did.
just brush
Yeah,
it
I
all
did.
off really good.
Yeah.
You could even like,
And who
if you
told us
wanted-
about this? Patty?
I think it was Patty, yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you, Patty.
you're welcome.
That's awesome. Oh, see, these would have been in for a few minutes. They're a little darker. Yeah, here's another one with salt. My dog's gonna have a salt fest licking the floor. So that's the way that one came out. I put a little more on that one. I think this is a wicked cool effect. I think this looks awesome. Okay. That's still wet. Still a bit wet. I'll just be right back in a chat. Okay?
Yeah. And you guys, just so you know, I'm also there's a little bit more that I'm gonna add to today's prompt. That you guys, if you want to take a look at it again later on. This is a few more color like a bit more of the color list for like what makes what color. So there's
Oh,
a few more
nice.
that
Oh
I'm going to
yeah.
add to it, and a few other things that are suggested. And then just so you guys know, the marigolds also make a yummy tea. And if you've ever had calendula tea, it is the same thing.
Yes, calendula is marigold.
Yeah. So if you had calendula tea, and if you have that, you have marigolds. You can use that too.
I can show you this is chamomile tea. You can barely see it. It's very, very, very pale. It's basically like an
Ooh, that's
ivory.
pretty.
Yeah.
So that's chamomile.
Don't forget like berries and like blueberries and strawberries, and
This is
some things
cherry.
will just make brown.
Yeah, this is cherry. It'll make it gray. I don't know why, but it does. And then tea basically comes out the same as coffee, but just a little lighter.
I'm trying a vellum piece. I don't know. It looks like it's sitting on top, but I'm going to let it sit and see what happens. I don't know. I might have sprayed it too much.
Yes, vellum will not absorb like paper will. So
Yeah,
you'll have to let it sit and dry. Absolutely. It's just like printing on vellum with an inkjet printer. You have to let the ink dry.
Oh, so you can do that.
Oh, absolutely. You can print on vellum.
Ooh, girl,
Yeah.
you
can print
got
on
some great
acetate.
ideas.
Print on
You could.
acetate, but you got to make sure you print on the right side. Also with your vellum, when it comes out of your inkjet printer, it will probably curl if it's too thin. So you got to grab it right away and lay it out and hold it down until like it gets its shape, and then you can walk away from it.
Oh, okay. Good to
Yeah,
know.
it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's doable.
So what is the difference? This might be a dumb question. I don't know. And I just bought some recently, some acetone, but what's the difference between acetone and vellum?
Acetate?
Yeah, that.
Okay. Acetate is like a clear plastic, right, Monique?
Yeah, acetate's a clear plastic, and then vellum it's a paper. It's a different kind of paper, but there's also different vellums.
Yes.
Okay.
Like rice paper, there's all kinds of stuff you can print on. Now, acetate, make sure you pay attention to what the package says. It will tell you which side to print on. One side will never dry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Good to know.
so pay attention to what side the package tells you to print on.
Okay, thank you.
And if you dye it, the side where you print on will dye, the other side won't. And you're not going to get the same kind of dye effect because it's plastic.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to use most of the traditional dyes. You have to use something that alcohol inks are good, but you're going to do more of like a paint on effect instead. But alcohol ink's very expensive if you're going to try to dye something. I wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
But you can use, there is a RIT dye for synthetics. Yeah, so there is actually a RIT dye that you can get that's made for synthetic material, which basically are plastics, your polyesters, things like that.
Yep.
That will dye it.
Wow, I didn't know they had that. That's kind of cool because I've tried to dye polyester before, and
yeah, you can't.
It comes out beautiful out of the dye, but then as soon as you rinse it off, it all washes away.
It's done. Yeah, no, there's a RIT dye that they carry at Michael's now. It's in the same section, but you'll notice that the bottle colors are different. There's not as big of a selection yet, but they do make a RIT dye that's for synthetics.
So this is
I love that.
The espresso. This is where I sprinkled the espresso. So it dissolved and just made it darker. That looks really cool. And it smells awesome. And then
Very
it
cool.
actually got all like,
I love the sound of it.
oh yeah.
I love me some crinkly paper.
Okay, I think I'm done.
That's awesome. Thank you for all the information. Wow.
That was
Yeah.
awesome. Can we see all the papers
any
dyed
other
one more time?
questions? Sorry?
I say, can we see all the papers dyed one more time that you pulled out of the oven?
This is what we did today. We did the coffee. That's the salt.
That's cool.
Yeah. Now that I look at this better, I can kind of see the blotchiness, but the paper is just blotchy on its own. So I think
So
that's probably why we can't see
basically it does the same thing with paint. If you're painting and you sprinkle salt, it leaves that kind of effect.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That one's beautiful in your hand.
Yeah,
I
these
love
ones
that.
turned out really nice. And then I love how these turned out. They picked up the pattern of the pan. Plus,
Those are very
got
cool.
the negative impression of the Rose of Sharon.
Yeah.
That's the hosta.
Very
I think that
cool.
was really cool. That's the big maple leaf, and those were hydrangea.
So awesome.
This was the crinkle effect that you get. I love doing this effect. I think it's fantastic. People just love it. And then your patterns. This was all tie-dye.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. These turned out beautifully. I'm very, very pleased with the orange. And the yellow even turned out nice. It's not as bright. You can barely see it. But you can see the vine.
Yes, it's beautiful. I'm all talking and I turned my thing off because I had to yell at the dog. We did all those today. Wow.
And I'll show you. Yeah, we did all those today. And then I hope you don't mind, Monique. This is what I have in my shop right now. There is a 10% coupon code for you guys. It's AJJC10.
Yeah, it's in today's,
as well.
if you go in today's prompt, there's a direct link to Desiree's shop with the coupon code already embedded. So as soon as you hit it, you should get the discount from her shop if you want to grab some of her papers. And I highly recommend grabbing a lot of her papers because she sells out and then you're not going to have it.
But you got to wait for another 6 months.
Yeah, so it takes a while.
And then you saw the book pages, and I have a ton of different book pages. I've got regular novels. I have Dutch novels. This is French English dictionary. I have music pages, small and big. I have the book on the opera that I showed you. I have American poetry. It's just a big mishmash of
Music
papers
pages,
and
please.
color. What's that?
I said, I want a music page, please.
Not a problem. We'll make sure you get one.
Okay, you guys want to see this one? It's pretty cool. This is the vellum. It's not all the way dry, but
Oh,
do you see
wow.
me?
I like it.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. My son loves wolves, so I thought I would try it. And I actually like, how it's very light around the edges, and then it does take a bit longer to dry, but I would have never tried that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you'll get the same effect if you throw that stencil on a piece of paper. You might even get it if you dry it outside.
Nice. Yeah,
Um,
I'm definitely going to be playing with my stencils because that's perfect.
oh,
The
they're
way
so
to,
versatile.
perfect way to use them.
Yeah.
I got it all over my hands and everything.
You're not having fun if you're not making a mess.
Amen, girl. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
And think of using all kinds of stuff for stencils, like cutting out your own. If you have a Cricut or Silhouette, cut out your own stencils. You can use cookie cutters, placemats, anything
Lace.
that has a pretty shape. You can
Yeah.
also do, don't dry them in the oven, but you can do the same kind of effect. It's called I don't know, it was always called a drink method from Tim Holtz, so that's what I always use that name. But if you dye your paper and set it out to dry, but put a stamp on top of it with like any kind of a picture. I use like simple, bigger patterns and just let it sit there while it dries. It's going to do the same effect as it does with the placemat or anything else like that, but just let it dry naturally. And then also for the salt method, if you actually let the salt sit and just dry it naturally just by itself, not in an oven, you'll get more little effects out of it too. Because
the salt didn't have enough time to dissolve.
Yeah, so the salt will dissolve a little bit and then dry out at the same time and give you more sprinkles and stuff like that too.
Yeah, that's a really cool effect. I'm definitely gonna use that. I thought that was pretty cool.
You can also like re-dye stuff after you dye it one color and then dye it with another color to fill in the white parts. All kinds of stuff that you can
It's
experiment
endless.
with.
If you think of it, try it.
If you're not
That's
sure,
what I do.
do it.
Somebody thinks of it, it's like, you know what? I don't know, but let's find out. Okay, ladies, I'm gonna take on.
Right. Anybody have any more
Everybody
questions?
for being patient with me. I hope you learned something. I know I
It was
did.
awesome. I learned a lot.
Well, good. I'm glad, Cheryl. Okay. You guys have a great day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Desiree.
Thanks
Bye.
again.
All right. So everybody, oops.
So fucking Sherry calls.
Hold on.
Stop this little guy real quick. All right. I stopped the recording.